Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Quality, the podcast. My name is Hemish, and since 2023, I've been interviewing some of the most talented and well-respected quality leaders in the pharma and biotech industry to learn how they got to where they are now. This season is all about our guests and their journeys. Why they got into science, how they got into quality, their biggest challenges and greatest learns, and the highs and lows along the way. Every week, I'll be bringing you a new guest with the purpose of inspiring the next generation of quality leaders. Welcome to Season 3. I hope you enjoy the show.
Hi all, today I'm joined by Subbu Viswanathan. Subbu is the Head of Compliance at DashBio. DashBio is a startup focused on automating clinical bioanalysis using robotics and AI to speed up drug development. Subbu has decades of experience in healthcare and life sciences and is really at the intersection of both technology and regulations. I really wanted to speak with him about how quality leaders and biotech professionals can be using AI to be more efficient in their work, why it's so important now, and what you should be doing to give yourself the best chance to be attractive to employees in the future. So for anyone wanting to learn what they can be doing to implement AI into their work from a basic level to a more advanced, this is a great episode to listen to. So let's get into it. Subbu, welcome to Let's Talk Quality. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Subbu, I'm really excited to have you on the show. It's an interesting topic that we're going to talk about, which I think is really, really front of mind for a lot of people at the moment and the industry. I've given you a very sort of brief introduction, but if you could give the audience a overview of who you are, what your role is, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I started out in the manufacturing shop floor, but I've always been, the 30-year career has been in the confluence of technology and quality and compliance. So it's always been on the technology quality and technology compliance side, as well as software development and technology. I started off in the shop floor in Warner Lambert, which was acquired by Pfizer and J&J. So if you've ever had Neosporin or Listerine, some part of my code is probably, was used as part of that. I started off there and then realized the folks who were doing quality and compliance and validation, et cetera, were making, 2x, 3x what I was making. I was like, hey, I speak well, I write well, I know the technology, so why don't I jump into that side of the house? I did that for a while. I actually was one of the youngest speakers, at the first PDA, FDA joint conference on Part 11. This was 98, 99, just when Part 11 came out. So then moved up sort of in the quality compliance ranks, worked for firms like Pfizer, J&J, Amgen, in sort of tech quality roles. Then I had the bug to build with my boss, Nagesh Nama, who was the CEO of Valimation. We had some IP. We knew how to do quality management systems, and we were stupid enough to think that the industry was ready for cloud. This was like mid 2000s to like 2007-ish. No one was ready for cloud in biopharma at that point in time, but we built out a QMS on the cloud, and we thought maybe hubris on our part, if we build it, they will come. We built it and nobody came. And of course, the Great Recession happened. We lost our shirt. The Nagesh has moved on, and they're doing some incredible stuff with AI now with a firm called XLM. Then moved out west, got married, joined USTM, another consulting company. And then by then, I was leading a lot of the tech initiatives, tech quality initiatives there. Then cloud started happening. So cloud became a thing. So myself and another gentleman called Jim Murray sat at a mall coffee shop, and we literally penciled out what cloud compliance should look like, and that became a thing, and it became a whole practice. And through USDM is when I really got, I sort of accidentally fell into biopharma, but that's when things got personal for me. I won't get into it here, but then I really became passionate about accelerating therapies to market faster. Joined Vinetti, which was at that time, cell and gene therapy was a thing. It was the next hot big thing. I was the chief compliance officer there, so managed all of reg compliance, software quality, and InfoSec. And COVID came and destroyed us a little bit. Then joined J&J as part of their CGT program, moved back into consulting. I started a firm with another buddy of mine to do AI, LLM-based solutions for audits and quality systems and even legal e-discovery, and then joined Dash. So that's where I am now.
Excellent. Well, great journey. So tell us about DashBio. Tell us what your current role is. Tell us what DashBio do, what they are, and then we'll get into some of the detail stuff.
Yeah, it's an interesting journey. Weirdly, I was trying to work with Ander, who's my boss now, who's the CEO at Dash. I had a failed attempt to join Resilience, which was a CDMO. Oh gosh, like 3 years ago now, I think, for a VP of quality role. Unfortunately, I didn't get the job, but you should always like I tell most folks that I mentor, I'm like, hey, you put your best foot forward. You have no idea how things come back around. I clearly had made an impression, even though I didn't get that job. Many years later, when Anda was like, "Hey, I have this position open, and I need someone to help with quality at Dash," I was like, "Yep." In a heartbeat, was ready to join them. After meeting with the leadership team, it was clear that they were trying to speed up drug development, and they're also not, despite the name DashBio, they're not, sort of generic tech bros like, hey, move fast and break things. They're really talented, mission-oriented, driven people who want to disrupt the status quo, but really move fast without breaking things while ensuring sort of the highest level of quality. Dash is redefining what bioanalytics CROs can be. So traditional bioanalysis is slow, manual, error-prone, ambiguous with respect to timelines and budgets. So many sponsors are frustrated with bioanalysis CROs. But the focus here is for us to leverage robotic automation, truly like doing things fast with automation and technology. Artificial intelligence where it makes sense and it's useful for us, and our own proprietary in-house developed LIMS/LES, lab execution system. So we're turning around bioanalysis. What takes 8-9 months, we're trying to do it in 8-9 days. Doing that without messing up quality, right? Without messing up the quality of our service, if you will, and doing it in a GLP compliant way and good GCP compliant way that is for preclinical and clinical studies. So we're doing ELISA, MSDs, LCMS, qPCR, wide array of biomatrices, etc. Just again, the goal is to move it faster.
So your customer base is sponsor biotechs, sponsor companies that you're helping them accelerate the development of their drugs through AI and automated processes, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's interesting, and I don't know where you are. You speak to a lot of industry leaders as well. I posted on this some time back, right? There's a lot of conversations about AI, and if you think about the drug development pipeline as a funnel, it's like a funnel. There's a lot of work happening at the front of that funnel to increase the radius or the diameter of the funnel. Well, there's alpha folds and, hey, we're doing all of this AI for drug discovery and all of that. Great. Now instead of having 300 trials for a large pharma, you're able to have 3,000 trials because you have 3,000 more, candidates. But sadly, the rest of that pipeline is still super narrow. If you think about a funnel, you've increased the diameter at the top of the funnel, but the rest of the funnel, you still have to go through preclinical development. You still have to go through the clinical trial process. You still don't have the the way that entire process happens all the way up until approval is a narrow radius or a narrow diameter. So Dash at least is working on expanding some parts of that radius so we can have more throughput go through the system. That's, I think, interesting for me.
It's a really interesting topic. So from a quality perspective, then your role is head of compliance at DashBio. So when you came into the role, what does your first sort of priority? What do your first priorities look like from a quality and compliance standpoint coming into this role?
Yeah, I can talk about it. There's a host of things that needed to be worked on, right? So obviously, DashBio speed. I alluded to this a little earlier as well. Hey, we've got to move fast, but stay within the tracks. If you want to use a train analogy, or if you're driving, it's you want to stay within the road and not fly off or hit anybody. Quality is sort of often seen as the handbrake for a speeding car, but we think about it differently. And also the industry is very traditionally, quality is the bottleneck. It's all highly paper-based, and it's all about CYA, making sure that every I is dotted and T is crossed. But we think about quality from a completely different perspective, where quality is intended to ensure that car goes as fast as it can, but can safely move as fast as it can. That means embracing automation, every quality workflow, embracing AI, embracing decision-making based on data. So the key was to bring a quality mindset or a software quality mindset to the development process to ensure that happens correctly. So we are actually releasing the platform not in 6 months or a year for a big release, but every week we're able to release something without breaking quality, without breaking what was done before, and ensuring net new features are coming through. It's a mind shift change for biopharma. Usually they used to sort of slow release cycles. That's at one angle. The other angle is, of course, we were doing a lot of R&D work, but not a lot of preclinical work or clinical work because we weren't GLP ready or GCP ready. So that was the big focus for me, to is ensure that we have the processes in place and the compliance program in place to ensure that we are GLP ready and GCP ready. Ensuring again a variety of things, right? From the time a sample comes in, how are we tracking? How is inventory managed? How is labware managed? How are reagents managed? How are the instruments qualified? Are these software systems validated? What's our quality management system going to look like? What are the different roles and responsibilities? How do we have a quality assurance function, which is very different in a GLP setting than a GMP setting? Just putting all of that together has been the focus.
Yeah. And how does it differ? Like, what are the challenges in comparison to traditional biotechs when you are, from a quality standpoint, trying to embed a culture of quality? How does it all differ?
It's a double-edged sword, or two sides of the coin, if you want to think of it that way. It's a smaller firm, so there's an opportunity for me to exert my influence much more than I would be able to at a larger firm where there's embedded processes, and I have to fight through the institutional politics, if you will. I don't have to do any of that. But on the flip side, because we're a smaller firm, there's a lot of responsibility on all of us, right? So there's the amount of work is quite intense and extensive. We are trying to burn through that and not kill ourselves, because we want to employ strategic automation where we can. Sort of the traditional, it's just a very simplest way of thinking about it. Hey, a piece of material comes in, we log it in. You'd have a logbook, and then we'd store it away. We'd store the things in some sort of a logbook. How best can we automate that? And is that the angle? Is that the process that we need to automate first? Right? Let's think about we weighted shortest job framework or something where we can say, hey, what parts of this need to be automated, which would have the greatest bang for the buck, but which would also be able to be solved in the most easiest way. So that's constantly the struggle that we work through, and ensure that we can automate as much as we possibly can. I don't know if I'm being clear about that, but
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And then from a sponsor side of things, like, what do they care about the most, I suppose, from, when it comes to quality in a bioanalytical partner?
No, they do care about the fact, can we pass a regulatory muster? So if the FDA walks in, is our sponsor going to be caught flat-footed?
Yeah.
Can we hold up to that level of scrutiny? And which means, how it is. I mean, most sponsors come in and audit us as well. And as a vendor, we have to be at a even higher standard than they would, the sponsors would do themselves. Because, I mean, again, you're outsourcing a part of your work, which also means you're outsourcing some of that risk away. And they tend to be a little more risk conservative, if you want to think of it that way, right? And the fact that we have so much automation going, so much new technology, because we built this from the ground up right now. This is all new. So we're leveraging the latest and greatest in technology from an AI perspective and from a cloud implementation perspective that was not there even 5 years ago, even 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So ensuring our sponsors can come in, understand not just the traditional way of doing things, but how we are automating and how that is actually better than what a traditional quality paradigm would be. Because your quality paradigm would be everything is done on paper, so it's easy for you to review and check off.
Yeah.
But we're like, no, we're going to have technology and systems that ensure that you're not even going to have that quality audit review, because everything is programmatically or algorithmically verified and checked for you. So you're not waiting at the end of the study to say, hey, does that study report look okay from a quality assurance perspective? Am I signing off on this study?
Yeah.
Because, has this, was the correct protocol followed? What are the amendments? Is there a deviation to the protocol? Oh, were there any non-conformances? Oh, am I reviewing this data? Was this data the actual, did it come from the right source? Does it match? We don't have to do any of that, because now the algorithm will take care of it. And of course, we have to validate that algorithm is correct, right? But then your quality assurance checks become more of a, hey, yeah, all the boxes were ticked off. And that's a bit of a paradigm shift for our sponsors. So it takes a little bit longer for us to articulate that and work that through in an audit. So what may be a traditional, half a day check the box audit could become a 1.5 day, 2 day thing, because we have to really walk them through what we're doing.
Yeah, it's a journey for them as well. So I speak to a lot of people about, I speak to job seekers, I speak to hiring managers every day and senior quality leaders. And a lot of the topic at the moment is how people are using AI and digital technologies and adopting them into their day-to-day basis. I think the life science industry generally is probably a bit, behind other industries in its adoption, and there's various reasons for that. But what are you seeing, I suppose, where if we're, I suppose, speaking more generally about AI and digital technologies, how do you see it where we are as an industry right now when it comes to the adoption of these new technologies?
Yeah, I mean, how best do I answer this? Let's think about this way. Let's talk about just technology in general and in biopharma, right? I'm pretty opinionated about some of this stuff, and we'll see. Let's see how you react to some of this. I think there are a lot of limitations in many traditional sort of legacy systems, right? They don't interoperate well, or they create data silos, which result in a lot of duplication, incorrect, bad data, which in turn creates difficulties in interpreting and learning from the data, or to derive any business intelligence, or much less, throwing some AI model at the data. If your data is crap, I don't care what model you use on top of it, your outputs and your results are going to be crap, right? Biopharma is sort of stuck in this weird place with respect to technology, right? So we develop SOPs and work instructions for how to use a system. Hey, if you have a change control system or electronic quality management system, thou shalt need an SOP. Thou shalt need an SOP on how to create a change control. Thou shalt need an SOP on how to approve that change. Come on. Amazon doesn't need an SOP. Netflix doesn't need an SOP, right? So either you have systems that are really badly designed from a UI and design. They're really compliant. They have all of the bells and whistles and audit trails and Part 11 compliance and what have you, and security and all. But the front end UX and UI is not up to snuff, such that you need, a lot of error handling outside of it with manual processes. So what have you really automated is one angle of it. The second angle of it is, you have a lot of these newer systems that are not built for compliance. LLMs are not built for compliance. LLMs hallucinate. They make up, you ask the same question 5 times, you're going to get 5 different results. So you have this dichotomy of either you have systems that are not well designed for use, but are super compliant, or you have systems that are not designed for compliance, but they're much more user-friendly to use. So that's sort of one thing. Second thing is you have compliance people are very conservative, and it's not because it's not their fault, because they've been burnt before, and I can explain why they've been burnt before. And they don't often understand the technology, or it's another flash in the pan. It was, if you remember, biopharma is chock-a-block with all of these silver bullets, right? First it was, sometime back it was ERP. ERP, we'll deploy an ERP and it'll solve all our problems. Then we'll spend millions and millions. Oops, it didn't. It just created more consultants and more process. Cloud will solve everything. Spend millions. Now you have all these data silos, and each department has their own shadow IT and their own cloud systems. RPA was a thing. Robotic process automation was a thing. We'll spend millions on it, but then no, that creates more tech debt, more silos, more shadow IT departments. Now it's like, AI agents will solve it all. It's like, no, because you're again doing exactly what you've done before, which is create these silos of information. Now each department goes off and tries their own little AI projects and AI, and there is no integration to all of this. Fundamentally, in a roundabout way, I'm saying biopharma companies do not view technology as someone that needs to have a seat at the table. They don't think of technology as an accelerator. They think of technology as a cost function. Most biopharma companies have their tech leaders report into the CFO. There isn't a CTO or a CIO, but it's a CEO or CIO in name only, because they roll into the CFO. And the business, whether in R&D or in ClinOps or manufacturing, those are the ones that hold the key. And the technologists are either looked at as, hey man, I need you right now and solve my problem, or hey man or woman or person, hey, come and solve my problem. Oh God, it's IT's problem that this whole thing sort of down the drain. There isn't sustained leadership. I'm generalizing here, of course. There are firms that do this very well, but there isn't there's a problem in leadership in trying to create a culture where, hey, look, we have to be technology forward, because that's the only way biopharma ABC is going to be ahead of all of the others. That's sort of a paradigm shift, it's been hard to come by, if that makes sense, right? This is great for all of these consulting and outsourcing firms because it's the flavor of the day. Let's offshore today. Yes, boss. Let's nearshore today. Yes, boss. Let's consolidate platforms. Yes, boss. No. Let's distribute everything else. Yes, boss, right? So you've got to have a need to go back to sort of good old fundamentals of product management, business analysis, truly handle technology like how software companies do, right? True software companies do. What's the job that needs to be done? What are the KPIs that we're trying to solve towards? What does success look like? Then execute and monitor and course correct along the way and sort of invest from the ground up. No one really is thinking about it in that fashion, and is in my opinion.
So is it really, so at the heart of it, to start with a mindset change around how you can enable your drug development company to adopt these technologies? That obviously starts at the top, I guess.
It does start at the top.
Or bringing in expertise around it.
And AI is a whole other game, right? So I was reading a bunch of reports the last 3 months, right? There's some stats that I want to throw at you. Manpower Group had a survey with biopharma. 85% of biopharma are increasing their AI spends, right? Generally, that's the gist of that paper. Yeah. MIT has a report that came out also in the last couple of months. It says 95% of Gen AI pilots at firms are failing. So that's a dichotomy there. So someone's spending more, but they're not getting the results, right? And McKinsey had a report that came out as well, which was the Great Gen AI Paradox or something, I think was the name of the article, saying 8 in 10 companies use Gen AI, but then 8 in 10 of them report no material impact change on earnings, right? So it's like, you're spending stuff. There's some new thing. You remember blockchain was the bomb, and you need to say blockchain and synergy for you to get your big bucks. Now you say AI to get your big bucks, but anyway.
Well, it's the same in other industries. You can say the same in sales and recruitment and staffing. There's more technology that a recruitment consultant or recruitment organization can use.
Right.
That doesn't necessarily mean everyone's making more money and profits are through the roof. It's whereas it should be, really, if the companies are investing in all of this technology and AI, there should be some throughput there.
And it can be done.
These things up and increases profits.
No, for sure. And it can be done. I don't want to sound like there aren't opportunities to leverage AI. There is. I mean, it's obvious, right? There are significant. It's a document. Even let's step back. AI means a lot of different things, right? Now, when we talk about AI, we generally are thinking about it the ChatGPT lens or an LLM lens, right? But there's, of course, traditional AI and ML, and there's a lot of good work that can be done. A lot of these static models that are trained once, and say you use AI for computer vision, right? And it's used for detecting anomalies on a plate, right? On a vial. Now, that is super validatable, super explainable, easy to implement, huge benefits there. But even with LLMs and stuff that's not readily explainable, what it does well is process a lot of words. And biopharma is chock-a-block with unstructured content, right? We SOPs, work instructions, change controls, reports, protocols, just so much information is unstructured, which is the big problem. And LLMs can really, really work out and do some of that stuff. So
let's, I guess, just sort of really taking it to a real basic level. If you were a quality leader in a traditional biotech organization, or even a leader, CEO, CTO, whatever it may be, and there's no involvement of AI or technology. I think it's important to distinguish between what is AI, like you touched on. Like, how would you describe, going to your point, AI in biotech? Like, what are the different methods of artificial intelligence that a leader of biotech can use now to speed up drug development? Because I think it's important just to, I suppose, take a real step back as a starting point. Does that make sense?
No, it makes sense. I mean, I sort of alluded to it a bit earlier as well, right? So you have where you have good data, and this is, again, comes back to my earlier rant about having all of these different systems and bad data, but where you have good data that can be operated upon, whether it is, leveraging that data to understand what the next level of business intelligence is going to be and sort of doing some predictive analysis or predictive algorithms, your traditional machine learning models and AI models could work very, very well in those. in those settings and scenarios. But again, focusing from a quality perspective, and again, I said there's a lot of documentation in biopharma.
Yeah.
There's a lot of processes in my department that I can automate leveraging LLMs. And simple example. I mean, I get tons of audit questionnaires and spreadsheets. Do I need to manually work through each of those spreadsheets? Can I get the AI to do it for me? Because hey, I ingest all of my SOPs and forms and work instructions and policies into this tool, and enter I put that into some sort of a vector database, right? So vectorize it. Then you ask the questions from it from different, GSK's walked in, Pfizer's walked in, Merck's walked in. Each of them has a different questionnaire. Now, instead of having a young QA analyst working through that and stitching it together, throw the problem at an AI, it'll do an 85-90% of a decent job. And then, of course, you go and tweak it and say, hey, no, I'd prefer, let's respond to it slightly better, etc. So that's an example. Another example can be, I sit in a meeting with you, Hemish, and we had a problem and we have to write up a CAPA, right? And now this is an RCA meeting, root cause analysis meeting.
Yeah.
We're on a call now, and this is being recorded and it's transcribed by an AI tool.
Yeah.
But most companies have Microsoft Teams or Zoom or whatever, which has an AI transcriber. But you should be able to leverage that conversation. Say, hey, this was the root cause analysis. This was the 5 whys that were done, a fishbone analysis. Here is the summary of that. Automatically push that into the QMS and say, hey, here's the RCA for the CAPA. Oh, and we discussed action items in that meeting. Capture the action items, toss that in, and create draft tasks in my QMS, which is corrective actions or preventive actions. Boom! Essentially, as soon as you walk out of the meeting, 5 minutes later, everything is populated in your QMS, and you go back to your cubicle. You're done. A buddy of mine, working in a large biopharma, was tasked with this. There's some new regulations that are coming out, the new AI regulations that came out in the EU and so on, and said, hey, how does it, this is a large global company. And he was tasked with, look at all of the SOPs and policies that we have across XYZ large biopharma and tell me how these new rules make this change. And his manager gave him 6 months to do this. And yes, it would take him 6 months to do it because there's so many different systems to figure it out and get it all done. Yeah. And I was telling him, hey, this is the tool we built when in the company I founded earlier, saying, hey, this is exactly what we can do. We can ingest them all and we can give you an answer in 5 minutes, which is going to take you 6 months to do. So there's so many of these examples where you can speed up the routine, the most boring or the most, intense work, which is not the highest of value. Can be sort of outsourced to these tools, and it sort of stays outside the bounds of true compliance in the sense, hey, you would have hired a PM or a project analyst or a project coordinator to take down the notes of that RCA meeting. Or they hired a quality analyst or an audit analyst to say, hey, respond to this audit. No, now I can just click, at whatever, $200 a month, $50 a month, some sort of a license fee, I can get something done much faster.
And do you think if you had to take your typical quality leader, people at your level, generally, you said on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being, do not use these types of technologies on at all, and their mind would be blown if you were to just sort of relay all of that stuff, what is possible to them, versus 10, everyone's using it or using it 100% every day adoption. Where do you think the average quality professional would sit?
It's at 3 or 2.
Yeah, okay.
And I'll tell you why I say that. I have a couple of open positions, right? And I'm interviewing people, a lot of people, right? And 250, 300 candidates come through. And some of the basic stuff that I've asked, some folks have not even used ChatGPT for their other sort of day-to-day stuff. Doesn't have to do anything to do with work. I understand some companies have issues with it. You're not going to be able to use it in the front. I completely get it. But if you're not using it for your own benefit, Hemish, I'm interviewing you for a job and I'm like, oh, I've never looked at it. I don't know what this means. I don't know what any of it. That's a problem. And again, I am not saying, hey, dude, just chat GPT everything away and let's just bring it in and it's champagne and cocaine. Let's do what whatever. It's a wild, wild west. That's not what I'm saying. But you need to be literate in what's coming, because if you're not literate in what's coming, you're going to be out of a job very soon. It's not that the AI is going to take your job. It's someone who knows how to use these tools to do the work that you're doing 10 times faster is going to take your job. Right. And that's what people are not understanding, that, it's never biopharma or GMP, GCP. No. It's coming, boss. be ready for it.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, I use ChatGPT every day for not just work, but just general stuff. It's part of my life. It's completely embedded in my life, and I can't believe how people aren't using it. But so you're actively sort of asking people in your interviews, like, how are you using ChatGPT? How are you using AI? Whatever tools they, maybe not AI, but I suppose basic ChatGPT.
I asked them. I said, "Hey, this was part of my interview process. I'm giving the answer keys away, and I'm still going to. Who knows? Maybe no one's going to watch me talk. Fine.
Loads of people watch it.
Some of the things that I ask is like, hey, I need to write an SOP on sample destruction. Use I don't care whether you know this business or not. Use all the tools that are available to you on this call. You tell me how you're going to write this. I need this done. I have a deadline because I don't have this process done, and I need to get this done by Friday, and today's Wednesday. And they'll be like, oh, I've got to think about this. And no. ChatGPT will give you a crappy answer. It's not going to be right, but it'll give you a 60-70% answer.
It'll get you somewhere there.
It'll get you somewhere there. At least get you mind thinking, right? You can use ChatGPT to interact and interface with it to get to something that may be 70-80% there, and say, hey, boss, head of QA, is this good enough? I'll say, nah, that's not good enough. Go fix this. And then boom, in a matter of hours, you're done, versus you're spending all of this time. You can argue with me saying, hey, the material you're getting from there is mostly GMP stuff. There's not a lot of GLP stuff out in the interwebs. So ChatGPT is more trained on GMP. All these are valid arguments, but it'll still tell you maybe 7 out of the 10 things that you need to do from a sample destruction perspective. Yeah. And then you've got to add the 3 nuanced steps, and then structure it for DashBio, because the way we are is different, right? That takes you so much further. Not many people are thinking that.
Yeah, I wonder if it's whether they just they don't even think that way, or whether they're reluctant to say that they would use ChatGPT because they think it's some sort of cheat code. I don't know.
Yes. And it's
maybe there's a bit of both.
Fear is absolutely in the conversation, because they're afraid. We're all like this. I'm getting older, and I'm worried about, hey, am I going to be aged out and not understand no? But the other way of looking at it is, no, I'm going to stay sharp and constantly stay ahead of the wolves that are nipping at my heels. Right? That has to be your attitude. And fear is why a lot of implementations also are failing, because your QA folks or your compliance folks are jaded. They've seen the story before. ERP is supposed to solve everything. It didn't happen. RPA was supposed to solve everything. It's just more stuff that came on their heads and nothing happened. So they're jaded. So the first chance, Hamish, you're some AI solutions firm who's handling audits, let's say. You come into my house, I'm already scared, and you deploy something, and we do some sort of a pilot. And as soon as you have a single hiccup on that pilot, I am all over you. I'm staying on top of you and saying, oh, see, that's why it fails. Hemish is full of nonsense. He's not going to be able to solve this problem. That's why you need my job. So that fear is a constant problem in biopharma.
Yeah. So you touched on it earlier, just around the talent piece and what people can be doing to keep a job, essentially, and to be attractive to employees in the future. Let's take your example of note-taking or SOP authoring or whatever it may be. There are certain tasks that people are doing now that could be done by ChatGPT or various AI models. What should people be doing, I suppose, to really make sure that they're upskilling themselves and also just not making themselves redundant and not being, I guess, not getting lost in this world in the next 5-10 years where a lot of these tasks will be done by AI?
Yeah, it's an excellent question, and it's a question I'm trying to struggle with as I mentor some other folks who are just fresh off of college and fresh off of school and trying to find a job. It's actually extremely hard now. Because I'm sure you know stories as well of kids who are in computer science or biotech and biomechanical engineering or whatever. They're from good schools, and they're out and they're looking for work, and they're not able to find work. That's precisely for this, because in the past I would have hired a junior, analyst person, sort of your first career job in a biopharma company, right? Is to, hey, you're going to every meeting, taking down notes and summarizing them and creating action items and putting them into your, the Gantt chart in Microsoft Project, or creating tasks in the EQMS or whatever it is, right? All that stuff is gone or is going away, or it's very hard for me as a quality leader to say, hey, I need fresh off of school grad to do this grunt work for me, my boss will look at me and say, no, you don't. Here's a $50 license, and here are some tools that can solve that. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. That's $50 versus $50,000, right? A year or $100,000, whatever it is. That I think is going to be the hardest problem to solve, is how are the youth of tomorrow going to get the starter jobs? That's how I learned. It's not like I was born with this, gifted with this knowledge. I did all the grunt work possible 30 years ago for me to understand what I know now, right? I think there's a tremendous advantage for those who have been in the industry for 3-4 years or more. If they're able to learn the new technologies, it isn't that complicated. It's not that hard. It seems hard at first, but if you just do enough, it's just, you have to clock the hours. You do enough of that work over a period of time, take some courses, or just play with the technology and try to figure something out on your own. They are going to be a significantly better advantage, because they're going to be able to. So someone with 4 years experience could pull off being someone with 10 years of experience.
Yeah,
in these tools and technologies. So everyone can level up, those that have certain levels of experience, but unfortunately that floor has moved up, and those that are at the bottom of that floor, fresh grads trying to get that, that's the part that I'm struggling to figure out how best to solve. And the way I'm thinking about it is more of, hey, they've got to find other ways to solve, help the firm, not just in a quality setting, or not just in hey, I'm just a lab systems analyst, or I'm just a X. You've got to be not just a X, you've got to be an X, Y, Z, alpha, gamma, and have the chutzpah to say, hey, I'm going to try to do whatever I can to help across the board. That's my first job. My first job is to do not specialize or across, and then as I get my experience, I can then specialize and move on. Whereas earlier we would have like, hey, this guy or this gal would be it should be an intern here, and then it goes up in this silo. That's going to have to go away.
So there'll be a slowing down of there'll be people will go into their niche later in their career.
And this is a problem. And this is a huge problem because, again, I'm being ageist towards myself, right? Because biology is ageist as well, right? I'm being ageist towards myself. You don't want, if you have a 100% company, you don't want all 100 of them to be 45 and above. No. You really don't, because you need, experience is great and everything, but you need youthful energy. You need someone who's thinking about things in a very radically different way, who's thinking about what the market is for tomorrow, what the drugs look like for tomorrow, what the therapies look like for tomorrow, what is effective for 25-year-olds and 30-year-olds who are not, I'm not able to empathize with what a 20-year-old or a 25-year-old is going to think about. You need a mix of that experience and youthful energy. And I think we're at this weird, funky state right now where the young and inexperienced and that youth and that energy, which is vital and important, is being shortchanged at the moment with what's happening with tech.
It's interesting. How about things like, holding an FDA inspection, managing audits, all of that sort of stuff, which really requires soft skills, human touch, communication? Surely the AI cannot replace that skill set.
Not at all. So where there is, and handling an audit, handling the inspectors is all about, no, it's not all about. You need to not be a completely messed up shop. You need to be able to actually deliver quality products or quality services, whatever the biopharma company is doing or the vendor is doing. However, inspectors and auditors are human. They have their idiosyncrasies and their biases, and you need to have the soft skills to work through that. Where AI can help in that is, traditionally you needed to have a lot of tribal knowledge, a lot of institutional knowledge, right? The folks who would face an audit at Pfizer or J&J or anywhere else would be like folks who knew the workings of the company, and they've been there for 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. They knew where the bodies were buried. They knew where everything is. That level of institutional knowledge and tribal knowledge is sort of muted a little bit now. So you still need your soft skills and the experience to be able to have the conversations. But so imagine, and I've been in audits before, so you'd have the green room, right? You'd have the place where the auditors were, and then the back room where all of the everyone's running like their heads are cut off, right? The chickens with their heads cut off, like, oh, the auditor asked for this. Oh, where is this? Oh, I need to go find this. Now, all of that stuff can be sped up much faster with tools like AI. Oh, no, the auditor is coming in and asking about when was the last time the steam in place program was run on skid number 5 in manufacturing suite number 12. What would take maybe minutes, hours, days, and now like, yeah, okay, just type that in. Here it is. Here is the form. Here is everything. I'm assuming you've done your job of having good data and you've connected everything else. That sort of stuff can happen much faster now.
Yeah. So it's a fascinating conversation, I think, and it's changing so quickly that this world, we could almost probably have another conversation in a year's time and be talking about some completely different stuff that would be foreign to us right now. But
Yes.
What do you have any, looking ahead, do you have any predictions around how AI is going to impact the industry? I know it's a difficult question to ask, but
No,
where do you see things heading?
it's AI is coming. There's no stopping it. It would be my emphatic statement. There is a lot of snake oil and BS being thrown at the wall at the moment, and vendors left and right. Now, vendors contact me all the time about this, that, and the other. So there's going to be need for more clear thinking, greater leadership to filter out the cream from the chaff from the wheat or whatever. And there's more mature guidance coming as well. There's Annex 22 that came out. There's draft guidance that's coming. There's a lot more guidance and regulations that are going to come out as well. EU is taking a significantly large leadership position here. But fundamentally, I think it comes back to the point I was making earlier, saying, hey, AI is not going to take the job, but some quality person or some a biopharma person who understands AI better than you is going to take your job. So you need to, if not learn all the intricacies of statistics and regression models and, whatever, clustering algorithms, you don't need to know all of it, but you need to know what that all means at a high level if you're running some sort of an ML model. You need to know what the LLMs are able to do and are capable of doing, and how you could stitch some solutions together to solve any generic document intensive problem, right? And you can play around with it with stuff that you have on your laptop and hey, here are all the documents that I have an interview to prepare for, and I have 1,500 documents on this. Let's use my tools to let me ask the AI to interview me, right, based on my experience, and let me see if I can or let me ask, I'm preparing for this podcast now. I've written a lot of stuff before, so I know Hemish is probably going to ask me some stuff like this, instead of me guessing, like, hey, what would be good topics to discuss in this thing, and have that, so that sort of mindset shift where you can say, look, I'm going to try to leverage this technology and be as well versed as I can, so that when I do get that foot in the door and when I do get in, I'm adding significant productivity value to the firm that I'm joining. So AI is coming, but the people who know AI are going to take your job, not AI, is nice. At a high level.
That's your emphatic statement. Yeah. Final question, just quickly then. So if you're an average quality leader, or your average quality leader, 3 out of 10 in terms of their knowledge and adoption of all this sort of stuff, where do I start? Where do I start learning about how to get lost in the crowd and make myself attractive in the future?
No, that's an excellent question, and this is the answer I give my kids as well, is to say, hey, I want to learn something new. It's less about, there's a lot of information. There's stuff in Coursera, there's stuff in Udemy, there's stuff in YouTube, there's stuff in Khan Academy. There's a lot of information that's actually free that you can leverage, or fairly inexpensive that you can leverage. However, it's less about what you pick. It's more about having that dedicated time, saying, hey, okay, at my previous firm, Benetti, we used to have this thing called an innovation hour or innovation afternoon. So Friday afternoons were all about, you've got to focus on doing something completely different from what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, right? So even if you're a middle manager in quality, or in some sort of an executive position in quality, you've got to find time. It's all about time and effort. So, you spend the Friday afternoon or spend an hour every day saying, I'm going to learn stuff that I don't know, and have this. And there's so much jargon at the moment. There's so much stuff that is thrown at you, but having that constant saying, hey, I don't know what this means, let me table this down, just being a little more organized about learning all of these different tools. AI agents, I don't know what that agent thing means. Okay, let's write it down. I'm going to come back to it and look at it later. So we're talking about, so just having that sense of discipline to say, I'm going to allocate this hour for self-improvement, because if I'm not, again, the analogy I was using earlier, the wolves are nipping at my toes. So you've got to keep running. And that sounds negative, but it isn't. The way I look at it is the flip side of looking at it is, if you're not moving, you're stagnating, and then you're atrophying. And then this is what happens as we all age as well. I think about this aging thing a lot. As we all age, I don't want to be in my 70s and given up and getting into early onset dementia or whatever it is. I want to be fleet of foot, fleet of mind all the way through, so that I can, So that same mindset, as you can think about from an aging perspective, you've got to think about it from your career perspective. It isn't it's not about, and you can say, hey, work-life balance. Yes, all of that's fine. But within that work part of the work-life balance, you need to have some dedicated time that you're disciplined about learning what's coming and what's happening in the marketplace.
So conscious of time, really enjoyed this conversation, and I think, like I said, things are accelerating so quickly. I think we could have another conversation in a year's time and have a completely different set of topics that we speak about AI. But thank you for coming on the show and sharing all of that and giving that insights into your world and way the adoption and how quality professionals can start utilizing AI better. I think there's loads of value people will be really interested in hearing about. So appreciate your time and best of luck with everything at DashBio over the coming months.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Hemish.
Cheers, Subbu.
Thank you for listening to today's show. I hope that you got value from it, whether you're starting your career in quality or if you're at the top of your field. Today's episode was brought to you by RX Group. I'm the founder of RX Group. We are a pharma and biotech recruitment organization focusing purely on quality assurance. We recruit consultants and senior level permanent quality professionals into the pharma and biotech industry. If we can support you, whether that be in a hiring capacity or if you yourself are looking for work, please get in touch with me on LinkedIn, visit our LinkedIn page where you can subscribe to the podcast, and visit our website, www.rx-group.io, to find out more about us. See you soon.